getting all this information. You're receiving all this information. You haven't given up any. You haven't used any bullets. You haven't used any magazines. You've got everything, and you're just observing. I mean, it's I think it was either Dick Winters but they wrote, hey, when I let someone talk, I know everything that they know, and I know everything that I know. It's like, well, there you go. Right. So you keep talking, because I'm going to know everything that you know, and I'm going to know everything that I know. And you know how when you do anything for the second time, it's like it's not twice as easy. It's not twice as easier. It's exponentially more easy to make a decision. So when you go into a room for the first time and there's a guy in the corner, you don't know what to do with your weapon, like, it's hard. And then you go into that room again, or there's whatever, there's like a couch and an obstacle, whatever, and you got to make a decision. The first time you go in there, you see a new guy going in there the very first time he's ever done it, he jams up and everything's a disaster. He does it one time, he looks at it and go, okay, you step out, do it again. He's exponentially better at doing it. So when we're having a discussion and I get to listen and listen and listen and listen and hear other people give points and counterpoints around a table, and you sit there and just listen and you go, okay, and you can assemble it all. You can assemble the strongest facts. You can identify the biggest weaknesses. And then when you finally, like you said, you've now everyone has expended all their ammunition, but you have a full magazine. Mm-hmm. Your magazines has actually been filled up with more rounds because everyone else is expressing their points and counterpoints. So you just sit there and listen. And then by the end, here we go. Here's the plan. And everyone goes, dang, Jocko's smart. How did he do that? I just shut my mouth and listen. Mm-hmm. All right, going back to the book. This next section, communications, information, reports, situation maps. So if you think about it, what leadership is actually just communicating with other human beings. That's actually what it is.
Agreed.
You have to be able to communicate what it is that you need to get done to other people. That's what it is. So how does that work? The reports and information of the enemy form one of the most important foundations of the estimate of the situation, the decision, and its execution. You got to know what's going on. And here it talks about air and ground reconnaissance. It talks about continual observation. It talks about information secured through special means. And I'm sure they're talking about human resources, like human intelligence, so spies or whatever. That's not human resources, is it? It's a different kind of human resources. Different kind of human resources. And then it says from the whole of all these different things, the commander is able to draw correct conclusions. Apparently unimportant details in connection with other reports have considerable worth. And this is something that they always told us in the military. When you come back from an operation and you debrief, you'd say like, well, I remember this specific thing. Where did you guys find, because my first deployment, we would be looking for weapons built, munitions or anything that they could be using to build IEDs, right? And the question was always, where did you find it? Where did you find it? And at first I was like, well, we found it in the bedroom. But where? Because is it inconceivable to think that if you and I were bad guys and I said, hey, man, I'm keeping my stuff taped up under my table. When the good guys come in, they never find it there. Oh, okay, cool. So I'll do the same thing. And I'm going this from an actual example. We found det cord taped up underneath a Mujahideen fighter's table in his house. Mm. And so that's like, I was like, oh, that's when it clicked to me. Oh, well, we should tell everyone that, because they probably tell everyone, right? Because that's a pretty good place to hide. You know how tables have like legs, but then they've got things that the legs attach to. Mm-hmm, so if you just glance under it and it's up under there, it's kind of hard to see. Right. So maybe someone says, hey, this is where I've been hiding it. They've searched my house 3 times, haven't found it. We'll find it now.
That's why we flip things over.
That's why we break it in half. So it continues on. Every report and the best information are of little or no value when they reach too late into the command for which they are intended. So yeah, if you don't pass information timely, doesn't make any difference. All commanders are enjoined as early and to the greatest extent possible to inform the higher commander of the situation and to transmit all important information. Yes. The one making a report must express himself clearly and positively. He must differentiate between what he has seen, what another has noted or stated, and what is presumed. The source of the information must be stated. Suspicions must have basis. Those are big.
Yep.
You've got to pay attention to those things. There's a big difference, and that's why we use appears to be, right?
That's right.
That's one of the biggest ones that they teach us, is you don't say, hey, he has an AK-47, or hey, he's got a weapon. If you can't confirm 100% that that guy legitimately has a weapon, because there's a big difference between, oh, it looks like there's something under his dish dasher, right? Oh, it looks like he's got a chest rig underneath his dish dasher. That's a lot different than he's wearing a chest rig,
right?
And he's got an AK-47. So it's always appears to be, unless you can confirm it. And when I did the My Lai massacre on here, that breakdown of intelligence, of it going from like the division level, which was, hey, this is I think they used the word, the original word was like a suspected VC. Oh no, it was like possible VC coordination point. Went from there down to like the brigade level. Then it turned into like from possible to suspected. Just a little bit of a different word.
Yep.
And then from brigade to battalion, it was like
likely.
And it went all the way down. When that Charlie company got those words, it was, this is a VC stronghold. Right. Not only was it that, this is a VC stronghold, the civilians are no longer there. The civilians, there's no civilians there. And what they had heard was, on Wednesdays, they go to some market. The women and children go to this market. And maybe they did, but it wasn't like, does every single person in your neighborhood go and shop on the same day at the same time? No. Is there, hey, Wednesday they got specials at the grocery store. Cool. A bunch of people go down there. Not everyone. Right. But the report that they got was, there's no friendlies in this village, all VC.
Wow.
And so as that escalated, you tell that to a 18-year-old trooper, this is an enemy village. And guess what they did? They went in there and they killed. They murdered everyone. So that's why you have to pay attention to those. And I had this happen to me too. We did an op on my first deployment. We got a piece of overhead imagery, and on that piece of overhead imagery, there was a red X on one of the buildings. And I was like, cool. This was early in my deployment. I'm like, oh, that's where the bad guys are? Cool, we'll go get them. We went out, we hit this building, and we cleared it, blew the door off the hinges, go in there, start SSE. While we're doing SSE, our terps are interrogating, or what's the tactical questioning, because we don't do interrogation, but doing tactical questioning of the people. The people are like, oh, no, that's not me. The person you're looking for is 3 doors down. And so we went and hit it, and we actually got the bad guy. Well, when I got back, I was pissed, because I'm thinking, we wrecked this person's house. Now that's horrible. That's not good for our strategic vision, what we're trying to get done here. The enemy, the real bad guy, could have escaped. And so I asked the question, I said, who put this red X on this building?
Yeah, who? What was the reason?
And who? And I actually said, who and why? Right. And as I dug down into it, they had through various intelligence sources narrowed it down to like this one area, and this one area, the center of that circle was the building with the red X on it. So that's my fault, right? That's my fault, because I should have said, okay. So from then on, it was my deal to say, who put this red X there and why?
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah. That red X implied at the time that that was the target house, as opposed to, hey, there's the center of the ring and it could be anywhere in there. You would have planned that mission completely differently.
There's 5 houses in this ring, and it's one of them.
We would have cordoned off the whole area.
And if you can think about all the different ways that intel can come in, and every different type of intel that you could have could come up with, hey, here's the probable chances. It's going to be one of these houses. So that was a big lesson learned for me. And, if you're people to know, when we would make a mistake like that, we would what we did is we carried money. We carried money, and we'd pay them for the damages that we caused, and we would more than more than pay for the damage that we caused. It was kind of a good deal to get your door blown off at the
time. Would you like to use my home? No, I mean, the thing is, we gave him a good chunk of money. And, it was all documented. We had to account for all that. I mean, I remember dealing with the logistics of that. But nonetheless, I mean, it's still terrifying. Those people who hadn't done anything wrong all of a sudden have their door blown off. A bunch of Americans who are already...
It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
The money doesn't...
It's a strategic loss.
It's a strategic loss.
Yeah.
So that's why I was so pissed that this happened. And that's why I was pissed at myself, because I accepted that intel as what we were just talking about. Hey, cool. There's the red X.
Yeah.
That must be the bad guy. Cool. Let's go hit that house.
So many examples in life and in business on that too. People say something and you're like, well, wait, did they say they weren't going to be there, or did they say they didn't think they could be? Like, I mean, there's just so many conversations that you can have about whether it's marketing in your business, whether it's something you're doing with your family. Just clarify for a second. Hey, wait, what did they really say? Did they actually say this?
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't really say that. Oh, okay.
Okay, that totally changes everything.
And it's in that moment. Yeah, it totally changes. And that's in those moments as a leader. It's like, hey, well, hold on. Before we actually go and pull the trigger on this, actually, in the case of combat, or figuratively, before we start marching, let's just clarify real quick before we go pushing off in this direction.
Oh, yeah. The rumor mill, the gossip, the he said, she said, those things are just awful. And as a leader, you have to take a step back. You can't let your emotions get a hold of you when someone says, oh, he said he didn't even want to come to this thing.
Wait.
Oh, really?
So he didn't want to come?
He didn't want to come? Or his father's sick?
Yeah, he's got a parent-teacher conference and his kid's really struggling in school right now, so he can't be there. Oh, well, that's a totally different
story.
Yeah,
totally different story.
Yeah.
Check. Next one. Battle itself provides the most reliable means of estimating the enemy. Boom.
For sure. That's a confirmation.
Yeah, that's just legit. That's the truth. Which means sometimes you got to take some risk. Got to take some calculated risk and figure out what's going on.
All of this is talking about preparing, mindset, the troops, the tactics, the techniques, logistics, all of that. But now to okay, sooner or later, battle's going to happen.
That was a tough one in Ramadi. There would be little checkpoints out in town, and the checkpoints would be run by Americans, and then eventually they'd be run by half Americans and half Iraqis. And at some point it was, okay, the Iraqis are going to have to run this checkpoint by themselves. And that was a huge risk every time to see if they could pull it off. And the first several times it was not successful. And we would turn over the checkpoints to the Iraqis, and there was I think 3 of them got overrun.
Oh yeah,
overrun.
Yeah,
and just mass casualties. But that's that's a risk that the commander had to take. That's a risk that Colonel McFarland at the time had to take. You had to say, okay, we've trained them, we've pushed them, they've been out there, we've done the right seat, left seat. We need to see if they can maintain it. We need to see what the enemy's going to do. And so the first few times it got tried, it was horrific. And eventually we did get the level of violence down, and we did get the Iraqi soldiers trained up enough that they could handle it. But it took we had to do what we're talking about right here. Battle itself provides the most reliable means of estimating the enemy. Sometimes you got to take that risk. It's awful. Continuing on this next little section called estimate of situation, period, decision, period. An estimate of the situation precedes each decision. It demands rapid thought, simple, logical consideration of the essential details only. Our mission is the basis. We proceed from it and determine what it prescribes and how we can best accomplish it. Rapid thought, simple, logical. You wouldn't think that you would need to tell people in the military and business in the world that, hey, when you're going to make a decision, you need to think simple and logical, right? How often do I see people making decisions that are not simple,
right,
and not logical?
Emotional.
Yeah, just emotional decision making. Here, this is why, and you know that General Beck had seen this over and over again in order to get to a point where he's making it evident in this book that you need to be logical about your decision-making process. That would be like if you were to sit there and talk to, hey, listen, guys, here's the most important